My name is Chris Lewis. I'm former Alexandria School Board member and a proud supporter of my friend, Councilman Canek Aguirre. We are so glad that all of you have joined us here today on Zoom on a Sunday afternoon. We spend a lot of time on computer these days, and for many of you, the weekend is your break from the computer. So it means so much that you took out time to come out for this important cause, which is re-electing Canek Aguirre to the Alexandria City Council. Briefly, I want to tell you why I think it's so important that we re-elect Canek. You know, Canek has proven that he is an important voice and leader for our community. I've known Canek for almost 9 years now, since I met him as a young parent liaison at George Washington Middle School, where he was working hard to help parents get the support they needed to help their students succeed. And in those 9 years, Canek's style of public service has not changed a bit. And I can describe it in 3 ways. First, he shows up everywhere. And when he shows up to work. He doesn't post often on social media, but he's always there to help and get the job done. And I've seen him jump in as parent liaison to help set up a room for an event that wasn't his event, or to provide translation for Alexandrians where there weren't services for them to join in a community discussion. And as councilman, he continues to be a worker. He showed up for our school custodians when their jobs were threatened. He showed up for renters when the pandemic hit us hard. And he showed up to make sure that 100% of Alexandrians got counted in the 2020 census, a count that is critical and important so that we get the resources and funds that the city needs from the federal government. Second, Canek is multi-talented. His policy knowledge is broad with experience and knowledge about key issues from education to healthcare to housing and transportation. And he's become an important regional leader on our Virginia Transportation Commission and WMATA board. Third, and most importantly, why we love Canek is that he is humble, which is sometimes strange for elected officials these days. Canek seems to love the work, and sometimes he seems to dodge the spotlight. I wish he would get even more credit for the work that he does. Yeah, I was talking to a union activist the other day, and he told me why he's a fan of Canek. He said Canek was the first elected official he had talked to who was humble enough to admit that he didn't know something, and he wanted to ask the experts for advice. In other words, he knows when it's important to listen and learn from those who know an issue from lived experience. Canek has an activist background and has bold progressive values, but he also understands the importance of working together to get things done. He shares credit, doesn't throw bombs or personal attacks, but his bold and progressive stances speak loudly for themselves. Like many of you, I'm supporting a few candidates in this race for council this year, but there is none more important for us to show up for than our humble, hardworking Councilman Canek Aguirre. And as we know, Canek is a man of the people. And so to kick things off here, we've got a few people of Alexandria on a video to give you a taste of how he's touched and helped their lives in his first term on council. So I hope you enjoy this video. Here's a little bit of what Alexandria has to say about Councilman Canek Aguirre.
And I've been a lifelong resident of Alexandria, and I am endorsing Canek for re-election for City Council because even before he was elected, he's always been on the front line helping those that need him. And this year in the pandemic, that included helping with food distribution as well as disseminating bilingual or multilingual COVID information for the community.
Hi, I'm Sammy Moschenberg. I live in Delray, and I supported Canek for his first election because he brought a new voice to City Council. And I'm enthusiastically supporting him for re-election because with the new voice, he's delivered for the people of Alexandria in healthcare, in housing, in education, and in countless other ways.
Hi, we are the Solorzano family, here to endorse Canek Aguirre for Alexandria City Council. My name is Sharon Solorzano, and we have lived in Alexandria since 2000. We voted for Canek and plan to vote for him again because he centers our vulnerable residents when he proposes legislation and votes on issues. We know he focuses on the disenfranchised and marginalized in our community.
Great job on the census, Canek.
I interned for Canek and know him to be diligent and hardworking.
I tutored for Tenants and Workers United, and I know that Canek cares about our city's youth.
Vote for Canek!
Hi, I'm Kelly Stone and I'm proud to endorse Canek for City Council. Canek has been showing up for our community since long before he was elected to City Council. He works every day to listen to all parts of our community, and he is going to spend every day on City Council making sure that Alexandria becomes the welcoming, inclusive, and resilient community that we know it can be.
Hello, my name is Matt Harris, and I strongly support the re-election of Canek for City Council. He's as smart as you can get. He listens to every side of every issue, is reasonable. Most importantly, he's fair and dedicated to the community like no one else. Please re-elect Canek for City Council. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Monique, and I'm a Delray resident, and I am thrilled to see that Canek has launched his campaign for re-election for Alexandria City Council. As a Latina, I could not be more proud of the work that Canek has done to ensure that our community is represented. From fighting for an equitable response to COVID and demanding that Latinos have access to testing and vaccines, to really representing us in our fight for affordable housing in the city. Canek has stood out as a leader at council. This is why I'm excited to support him in his run for re-election.
Hi everybody, just wanted to share a few reasons today why I'll be supporting Canek for re-election. So first off, he's always been super responsive to me as a young person, which is really important to me, and it really goes to show how he's listening to everybody in Alexandria. And then second of all, his focus on transportation in his first term has been really great, and I want to see that for another 3 years, so we really need him there. So yeah, thanks, and I hope y'all will join me in supporting him for another 3 years.
Hello Alexandria, guess what? It's election year again. I'm making this video for my friend City Council Canek Aguirre, and I encourage you to vote for him in his re-election. Not only because I believe that having a diverse city council is important for the city, but also because Canek gets things done. I'm gonna give you a couple examples of what I mean Canek getting things done. Number one, you see Canek all over the city. He's volunteering with Alive, giving food away. He's volunteering with the health department, making those phone calls. And he's also volunteering with the recreational department, putting those gifts for our residents. Another and very important one is because last year we had the 2020 census. Canek was one of the leaders. And guess what? That huge effort making sure that everybody gets counted represents money. So please vote for Canek for 2021, and let's make sure that he's in City Council for 3 more years. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dan Moschenberg, resident of Delray in Alexandria, and I support Canek Aguirre for City Council because he delivers. He not only cares, but he acts, he consults, and he moves legislation forward, and he moves action forward.
We support Canek because he's always solid on the issues, and he doesn't get too ruffled by anything. I've always been impressed by the way that Canek addresses the needs of the community through a data-driven, calm approach. He seeks the limelight less than any politician I've ever met, and really just wants to get things done. And that's why I support him for City Council.
Vote for Canek!
Vote for Canek!
Fantastic. Well, thank you all of you who sent in videos. I saw a lot of friendly faces from around the city there. That was fantastic. Before we get to our candidate though, we've got 2 people here in person who are gonna speak a little bit about what Canek means to them and why they believe it's important that we re-elect him. So first up, we're going to bring up a young woman who has lived in the city of Alexandria for 22 years. She is a proud Titan, graduating from the soon-to-be renamed T.C. Williams High School, and as someone who knows Canek extremely well. Let's bring up Emmy Flores to speak to the group. Emmy.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Emmy. Thank you for the welcoming. The reason I support Canek is when I met Canek, I was in middle school, and ever since I met him, he's always been helpful, not just in school, but in the community, always walking through, asking if people are okay. Another thing I like about Canek, and we should support Canek, is because he's very supportive and committed. He's motivated, and he's always willing to get the job done, no matter what the cause is, and no matter what it is, he's always willing to help, and that's why we should support Canek, because he gets the job done.
Fantastic. Thank you, Emmy. And then our second special guest, who is actually going to introduce the man of the hour, is a longtime activist here in Alexandria. Ladonna Sanders is a native Alexandrian and a real leader in our community. She's former president of the Alexandria chapter of the NAACP and has worked closely with Canek on many fights. She's a parent and she speaks truth to power. And I know when I was on the school board, when Ladonna called, I listened. So I hope you will too. Bring it up to the stage here, Ladonna Sanders.
Thank you so much, Chris. So I'm here today to introduce the man of the hour, Councilman Canek Aguirre. Councilman Canek Aguirre was elected to the Alexandria City Council on November 6, 2018, and he is the first Latino to ever serve. Councilman Aguirre was born and raised in Los Angeles, California, and is the son of Mexican immigrants. Prior to his election, Canek served on numerous boards and commissions. I am supporting Canek because of his commitment to champion the issues impacting all Alexandrians. I, like Emmy, have seen the impact of Canek's outreach in Alexandria through his work in ACPS, the FACE centers, and while we both served on the Economic Opportunities Commission. Canek is an asset to Alexandria. He is committed to ending racial and economic equities and believes strongly in supporting issues that not only impact the Latino community, but issues that are impacting all Alexandrians. Please join me in welcoming Councilman Canek Aguirre.
Greetings, everyone. First off, I'd like to thank the Honorable Mr. Chris Lewis for emceeing today. Thank you, thank you. Also, a big thank you to Emmy and Ladonna for the kind words and for the introduction, of course. And a big thank you to all of you for joining us today. One more thing before we get started. As is customary, I want to recognize a couple of folks that have joined us. I'm pretty sure we have school board member Jacinta Green, so thanks for joining, as well as former school board member Bill Campbell, who's also a candidate for City Council. And bear with me as I scroll down this this participant list here. We have our clerk of court, Mr. Greg Parks. And I think I also saw Captain Sean Casey, who's a candidate for sheriff this year. So thank you all for joining us today. And I think that's everyone. If I missed anyone, my apologies. We'll try and catch it on the back end. But all right, let's get to it. For those of you that don't know me, again, I'm Canek Aguirre. I'm excited to officially kick off my campaign for re-election to the Alexandria City Council. And thank you to everyone who submitted video messages. That's really, really sweet. Really enjoyed that. And thank you again to everyone joining us virtually. I know we would have liked to be in person, especially for some of the food, because you guys all know that I love to eat, but we're making it work. And I just quick comment, like one of the really nice things about doing this virtually is that folks can join from across the country and across the world. So, you know, some folks from LA, some folks from Mexico, folks from North Carolina, of course, Virginia, and some folks from New York. So thank you to everyone for joining today. If you don't know my backstory, I want to give you a little insight into what kind of shaped who I am and how I got involved here in Alexandria. Like Ladonna had mentioned, I was born and raised in Los Angeles. Both my parents immigrated here from Mexico. I made the really life-altering decision to switch coasts from the West Coast to the East Coast for college. I never thought I'd leave LA, much less California, but all of a sudden I found myself across the country in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Go Heels. I had a bit of a tumultuous time at UNC, but graduated and was excited to go back home. Fate seemed to have other plans for me though. Almost a year to the day when I returned to Los Angeles, we lost our home in the housing crisis of 2008. After a few months of trying to figure things out and honestly not really knowing what to do, I decided to go back to North Carolina to try my luck again. What I found was some hard but extremely beneficial lessons. I ended up working 4 jobs, 7 days a week, about 80 hours each week. I had no vehicle and relied on public transportation to get me around. I was able to eventually get it down to 2 jobs in about 70 hours a week, which was good in my book, but I was still unfortunately struggling to make ends meet. Luckily, there was opportunity brewing though. They say Virginia's for lovers, and I guess I'm no exception. My girlfriend at the time, but now wife, she had gotten a gig up on Capitol Hill, and I said, well, I guess I'll go try things out in Virginia. So I landed in the port city in 2011, still without a vehicle, but I got really lucky with a position at the local middle school, which is about a mile from the apartment we had found. Little did I know that this was going to be my springboard into advocacy. At GW, I was the bilingual parent liaison, tasked with involving Latino families more with school affairs. To do this properly, I really felt that I had to immerse myself in the community to see what they were experiencing. And this is where I would begin my relationship with groups like Tenants and Workers United, Community Lodgings, Casa Chirilawa, and Neighborhood Health. That's going to be real important 9 years later for the census, but I digress. I caught a few eyes with the work that I was doing at GW and got promoted the next year to help start up the Family and Community Engagement, or the FACE Center. I went from working in one school building and community to working across the city with a variety of nonprofits and city entities. And I really had the chance to see the different pockets across Alexandria and how they all interacted. After 2 years of really building up a name for the FACE Center, I got plucked by the private sector. Specifically the health industry and Medicaid, and went from working in Alexandria to all of Northern Virginia. What never changed though was the fact that I was working with some of the hardest to reach and most vulnerable communities in the region. Knowing the deep pockets of inequity in our city from my time working for ACPS, advocating for tenant and immigrant rights, and working in public health circles, I knew more needed to be done, and that's really what motivated me to run in 2018. I believed I could be that bridge between what's happening on the ground in the trenches with the policy that was being created by the decision makers. We ran a really strong campaign. I was really proud of it. And I was very humbled and honored to be elected by the voters of Alexandria as the first Latino ever to serve on council. And when I came in, I started in January 2019, I hit the ground running. I was tapped by the mayor to lead our census efforts as the chair of our 2020 Complete Count Committee. This is where my years of relationship building with different community groups really paid off. Even though we faced unprecedented hurdles during the census, an administration bent on undermining the process, and a global pandemic, I successfully led efforts to achieve a 100% count of our households. Those efforts have secured millions of dollars. Let me say that again, millions of dollars in federal funding for the next decade. And that's for our roads, our schools, our businesses, and our families. When COVID-19 hit, I jumped right into the fray. I visited all of our food distribution sites, both through the schools and community partners, and got safety protocols implemented because I didn't want our food distribution sites to become virus distribution sites. I met virtually with our housing safety net providers and residents who were facing eviction. I knew language access was going to be a huge issue and made multilingual outreach and resources a priority in our city. When you see those signs in different languages across the city, or happen to use one of those hand washing stations, that's because of me. As a Medical Reserve Corps volunteer for over 5 years, I've been on the front lines volunteering at our COVID-19 call center, at food distributions, testing sites, and now our vaccination pods. I fought for equity and transparency throughout this pandemic, making sure that our limited resources were placed where they were needed most. At the onset of the pandemic closures, Visit Alexandria had a really great interactive map. You got to see the different businesses that were still open, and they were trying to put an emphasis on buying local and supporting our local businesses. But that focus was almost exclusively on Delray and Old Town. I changed that. I made sure our businesses in Alexandria and the West End got the attention they deserved, because we have a very diverse city and we want to highlight everyone that's there. When the money finally came in to support our small businesses, I helped to ensure over $200,000 of the Back to Business grants went to small women and minority owned businesses across the city. Because I literally walked into their shops and said, hey, have you heard about this program? If you haven't, you need to apply. Because I've been pushing an equity lens in our COVID response, we're starting to track which businesses are actually SWAM, or small women and minority owned, and we'll be requiring the collection of gender and ethnicity data, as well as rethinking our procurement process. I've been delivering for the people, delivering for Alexandrians on our COVID-19 response, supporting local businesses, promoting equity and inclusion, achieving a complete count, building more affordable housing, and investing in our transportation and infrastructure future. Talk is cheap. What people want to see is action, and that's exactly what I've been doing. Now, we've been able to accomplish some amazing things in this first term, but there's always more work to be done. The pandemic has really shown just how important state and local government is. We need proven leadership to get us through our recovery and make meaningful change in the days to come. I know we can continue to improve our community's access to healthcare because I've helped make it happen. I know we can make government more accessible and accountable because I've started that process. I know we can continue to push for increased housing opportunities and prevent evictions because we're fighting these battles now. And I know we can do all of this by working together. Again, my name is Canek Aguirre, and I would be humbled and hope to earn your vote on June 8th. Thank you. And I want to mention I forgot two folks that are on. We have former City Council member and Chair of WMATA, Paul Smedberg, and former school board member Helen Morris. So shout out to both of them as well, and thank you for joining. And I want to kick it over now to David Pala, who is my campaign manager, for another quick message.
Thanks so much, Canek. Everybody give him a round of applause, another one. He may not be able to hear because everyone's on mute, but he'll be able to see you clapping for him. I mean, honestly, what an amazing city council member. You all are very, very lucky in Alexandria to have someone like Canek who's willing to go out into the field, roll up his sleeves, get his hands dirty, delivering for the people, whether it's getting the 100% count in the census, or whether it's being out there for the vaccinations and testing sites, fighting for affordable housing, making sure that you're creating the transportation systems of the future. Truly, Canek is an incredible leader, and it's going to be really important that we hold on to him in City Council in Alexandria. I'm sure it's no secret to a lot of people that there's going to be some turnover, and we need some form of stability on the council. And Canek is exactly the type of stability that we want to keep there, because he's been guiding with a calm, community equity focused hand that is just delivered for so many people. So I'm here because I'm doing the hard part of asking for money. Elections are very expensive. Canek ran an incredible grassroots campaign last time around 3 years ago, and he was able to win because of all of his community support from the various activities, volunteering, and boards of the past. This year, we're in the age of COVID-19, right? It's a lot more difficult to run these campaigns. We can't get the people out in the streets. It's at times been dangerous until recently to even have conversations with folks on the doors. So it's going to take a lot more money than it has in the past. We need to send mail. We need to have digital advertising. We need to send texts. We're going to do a lot of lit dropping and putting, hanging door hangers on folks' doors. So please, if you have already donated to Canek's campaign, thank you so much. Make another donation today of whatever you can give. If you normally would give, $5, try to give 10. If you normally give 20, try to give 50. If you give 50, try to give 100, because that's how much it's going to cost. It's going to be twice as expensive as it was last time. And we need to dig deep to make sure that we can hold on to Canek, because we need to keep his leadership. This is a pivotal inflection point in Alexandria City's history. We're heading in the right direction. Are we going to keep heading that direction, or are we going to go back to the stagnant old ways? So please give what you can to Canek. The donation link is in the chat. I'm going to put it in again right now. I also have a couple other asks for you. The other big thing that we need is we need people. We need boots on the ground. We need folks who are willing to go out and hang those door hangers that I talked about. Alexandria is a big place to have a city, citywide, no districts. Everybody runs at large, which means you have to run across the A, B, and C section of the city. There's thousands and thousands of voters, and we need to get out the information about Canek. This is going to be a pretty high turnout election. As we all know, the Democratic primary is the most important, phase of the campaign in Alexandria City. So we don't just need you, we need you now. So in order to volunteer, please send me an email to info@canecforcouncil.com. And I'm putting it in the chat right now. info@canecforcouncil. I posted it up there earlier as well. In addition to volunteering, we need to get Canek in front of as many people as possible. That means if you and like a bunch of folks from your neighborhood that maybe you used to get together and have wine tastings or book clubs or whatever, folks in Alexandria go and ride bicycles together. I don't know. We need to get Canek in front of those groups of people. If you're members of any organizations that are doing great work in the city, volunteering or advocacy or anything like that, we want to, your HOAs, your PTA meetings, anything like that, we want to get Canek in front of those groups so that he can talk about the great things that he's done, just like he did for everyone here tonight. So once again, if you are interested in hosting a virtual meeting or having Canek attend one of your community meetings that you're a member of, please also shoot me an email at info@canecforcouncil.com. And thank you all so much for everything you've done, everything you did in 2018. And thank you for everything that you're going to do this year to make sure that we keep Canek in this seat. It's just so incredibly important. And we're not going to be able to do it unless each one and every one of us does something. I've already been out and knocking on doors. I've donated and I'm working for the guy and I'm going to keep doing it. So please, please join us in this fight and making sure that we can keep Canek on the city council. All right, now I'm going to send it back over to the man of the hour, Canek, to give us some closing words.
So we did miss a couple other folks. So I do want to give a big shout out to school board members Heather Thornton and Michelle Reef. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And I'd also be remiss if I didn't say thank you to my mother and father. I love you guys. Thanks for joining on today. But again, really humbled by all the support. Looking forward to getting out there on the doors, whether it's lit dropping, phone banking, whatever it might be, and having a really great showing. So thank you all again so much for being here today, and stay safe, and we'll see you out there. Thank you.